Okay, so we're gonna watch a couple videos and then read through some important points. And we should be done pretty quickly today. Pretty sure I got the first one pulled up. Okay, well, let's have a look.
This video is an overview of the Canadian political system, and I'm going to touch on
So the goal here is I'm gonna look at a couple of the different democratic political systems uh, before I really give a critique on them to see how we can make them better, essentially.
uh, the basics of the system as well as how the different parts of this system relates to each other and overall structure of it. In other videos, I'm going to details on how each part of the system works.
Oh, so this guy's got details. I'm definitely not going into that today, but understanding the government, the politic model behind the scenes they make. We should probably listen to most of these at some point. He does short videos. House of Commons. Right here is what he's talking about. Here we
And elaborate on that. Now I'm going to just start and go over each of these pieces with a quick overview and some comments on how each of these institutions relate to each other. And this is, of course, very much informed by this entire map. And this way of thinking about politics is very much informed by systems theory. It's a very typical map in that sense, where we have at the bottom here the people. They elect their representatives to the legislature, in this case to the House of Commons, and the House of Commons elects an executive, and the executive steers the administration, which produces output, social services, and policy that affects the people, and the people can then evaluate that. So it goes in the circle. That's the general sense of how it should function. Now, this map here will tell a practiced observer that we're talking about a parliamentarian system because of the dependency of the executive on the legislature. If the executive can't maintain the confidence of the legislature, it will have to go. And that can be contrasted to presidential systems, for instance, in the United States, where the executive can remain in office regardless of the legislature and its attitude towards the.
So we're definitely going to look at the U.S. probably next and how they run their system. Um, this already seems more complicated than I originally like. It's crazy how they don't teach you this in the standard education system.
Executive. So here in Canada, if the executive can't get a budget bill passed, there will be a new election or at least a new executive. The government will fall, and most likely the governor general will want to see a new election coming. But that's not what would happen in the United States. So let's go over each of these pieces one by one really fast. First, of course,
Okay.
the people, and here I'm going to focus mostly on political parties and how they're organized, and the party systems and how different political parties have related
Look at how far he's got to zoom in to be able to read his notes there.
to each other over time in Canadian politics. Moving on, I'm also going to discuss in a different video elections, the main part here being the first past the post system, but also how elections are organized and fundraising and participation. The legislature, of course, when the people vote, the winners in the election become
Okay, so they got it broken up into the House of Commons and the Senate. I can't actually read any of that.
members of parliament. So note here that the arrow only goes to the House of Commons. Senators in Canada, of course, are not popularly elected. And
Oh, I think the Senate's the like they're appointed, but they're just kind of always vote yes.
also important to note in this parliamentary system, this is founded on the Westminster system, the Westminster model of parliamentarism. So we're talking about a fusion of powers between the legislature and the executive. And we're talking about legislative sovereignty, also known as parliamentary supremacy. So the sovereignty of the Canadian federal state lies formally within Parliament. Parliament makes the decisions, and the executive has to obey those decisions, which is why an executive that wants to be able to function needs a majority of the seats in the House of Commons. So Parliament is really at the heart of the system that
And so House of Commons is what you're electing in an election. Senate designed to Commons, the Senate can delay. Senate reform has been discussed for decades.
that's the key formal body, the supreme expression of popular will within the Canadian parliamentary system. And that's important to note because when we hear discussions about how the executive works in relation to Parliament, there is the sense sometimes that Parliament is just a rubber stamp of the government, but that's only the case in majority governments. And even when it seems to be the case, that doesn't really remove from Parliament being at the heart of the functionality. So when we hear commentators discussing the importance of Parliament for the Canadian political system, that's what they have in mind. So going on with the executive, there is the Queen and the Queen's representative, the Governor General.
So it is kind of funny how in our democracy we still have like uh, a representative of the Queen that signs the bills into power. Or I guess like how old is this? Because it's the King now. It's only a year old, so this has always been a
Being the head of state.
weird aspect of it to me.
This is mostly symbolic, but it also has some during
Mostly symbolic. Like as far as I understand, the representative just signs whatever's put in front of them. King Charles III, so it is the king, embodies the authority of the state. Yeah, this is all stuff that's like left over from when we originally separated from England, right?
in particular flashpoints in time. It actually does have some practical significance. The Prime Minister being the head of government and arguably the most powerful individual.
Crown derives power from the Constitution Act. Okay, so I don't think there's a whole like I don't think there's really a lot of power in the top one. Like I think that's kind of just something that's left over from when we finally separated from Great Britain. But the Prime Minister, I want him to get down
within
there.
the Canadian political system. Also, I will talk about. It's also important to acknowledge cabinet and the role of members of cabinet, ministerial responsibility.
Collective responsibility. All members of the cabinet are bound to carry out government policies. So this is the cabinet is what the prime minister selects. Like these are his cabinet officials.
In cabinet, solidarity, and collective responsibility.
PM selects people to become ministers. Minister of Finance, Minister of Foreign Affairs, cabinet members.
Moving on, of course, the executive runs the administration, and it's important then to discuss how the administration can control the bureaucracy and what types of organizations exist within the bureaucracy, the government departments, administrative agencies, crown corporations, and so on, and trends in how this has been run by governments over time. Canada is a constitutional monarchy, and as such, there is a constitution and Supreme Court to watch over that constitution. And
Constitution, several written documents. So we have a Supreme Court, kind of the same way that the U.S. does.
how the Constitution has shaped Canadian politics and continues to be significant for Canadian politics, and particularly perhaps Canadian federalism, is something that also has to be discussed in greater detail. Which brings us to the subject of federalism. Canada is a federal country with 10 provinces and 3 territories. It has thus a system of shared sovereignty between the federal, state, and the provinces. It's a very decentralized federation, more decentralized, generally speaking, than, say, the United States of America. So that makes it,
Wait. Let me hear that again.
speaking, than, say, the United States, centralized, the federal, state, and the provinces. It's a very decentralized federation, more decentralized, generally speaking.
So less decentralized means that the provinces control more authority than the states would in the United States. Okay, because I remember hearing about this, like, with Quebec. Quebec did, like, they pushed a long time ago to get, like, certain rights and stuff passed. Okay.
Speaking than, say, the United States of America. So that makes it quite different in terms of the political dynamics of Canada compared to the country that informed the blueprints for the Canadian Constitution and system of government. In other words, the United Kingdom, of course, being a unitary country. So Canada, by virtue of its geographic size, the diversity of regions,
It is definitely a huge country.
by virtue of the economic diversity that comes out of that size, and by virtue of the constitutional sharing of sovereignty between the federal and provincial government, has some really interesting dynamics going on between these levels of government that are also, when we talk about this whole configuration about government and
70% of Canadians live within 150 kilometers of the US border. I mean, that's where it's warm for Canadians.
the process of accountability in the democratic exchange chain, of course, the media deserves some attention because it's a primary broker of information between the people
Okay.
and the government, and then I mean all parts of government, legislature, executive,
Social media enables.
and administration. It is called the Fourth Estate for a reason. It's called this because it is a watchdog, and it's a really important part of holding all levels of government accountable to the people. And come election day, the media will have played a very significant role in how the people will act and vote, and thus exercise its powers of accountability over the elected representatives in the House of Commons. So all of these parts of the Canadian system will be examined in greater detail in further videos. So watch them. And thank you for watching this quick overview.
Okay, so I do see here that he goes into each of these more in depth, but I don't think I'm going to watch that here. I think that'll be pretty boring. Anyway, let's see. So, hmm, here we go. Why this one? It's concise, structured. Important points to keep in mind from this video. Let's see what it's got to say. The Canadian system is a parliamentary democracy, Westminster style. The executive or government depends on the confidence of the legislature. If it loses that confidence, i.e., can't pass a budget, the government falls and new elections or new leaders may be needed. Executive. Confidence of the legislature. Let me get that circle back up here again.
In the
So the legislator is what we elect, and the executive. So you elect people to go to the House of Commons for you, and the party, the current ruling party in the House of Commons, the legislature, then puts forward the prime minister, and the prime minister selects all the other ministers, and they are the ones that put forward things like the budget. And then the budget has to be passed by the House of Commons. The government, and if it loses the confidence, can't pass the budget, the government falls and new elections or a new leader may be needed. Okay. That's one of the things they're always debating. This is very different from a presidential system like the US, where the president stays in office even if Congress opposes them. I think we're seeing that in the US right now. Okay, the people elect representatives to the House of Commons, the elected legislature. Political parties organize this. The House of Commons is the heart of the system. Parliamentary sovereignty means real power and decision making ultimately rests here. The executive must obey Parliament. So the people put forward, in the end, the power is with the elected House of Commons. The executive branch includes the monarch, king or queen, represented by the governor general, mostly symbolic, but important in rare cases. I wonder what those rare cases are. I'm not going to get into it right now. The prime minister, the head of the government, and the most powerful individual, and the cabinet ministers who must show collective responsibility and ministerial responsibility. The executive steers the administration / bureaucracy. Okay, so the person put forward, the prime minister, and the cabinet steers the administrative bureaucracy, government departments, agencies, crown corporations that actually delivers service and policy. Crown corporations. That's something I want to look into. Deliver services and policies. All right, so this is the group, because right now they're shrinking the federal workforce. And so it is this group, the prime minister and the cabinet, that are making the decisions to do that. Okay. Canada is a federal country, shared sovereignty with 10 provinces and 3 territories. It is more decentralized than the US. Provinces have significant power. I think we get into that next. The Constitution and Supreme Court oversee everything. The media acts as the fourth estate. a watchdog that keeps government accountable by informing the public. Overall flow to remember people elect the legislator chooses the administration controls the outputs, the laws of the services, people evaluate, and they repeat each election cycle. This accountability loop is the core idea. Okay, well, seems to be working pretty well so far. Okay. So we're going to get into the provincial system next. It handles schools and hospitals. Let's see what, yeah. Follow up on that later. Five-minute task.
What does a premier?
Oh. Okay. So the provincial system has more power than the state system does in the US. I kind of wonder like where the differences lie here. Because like as a Canadian, we do tend to get like bombarded by US media. So I probably have a better idea how the US state system works than the provincial system here. So let's see, at least let's see what they have to say.
Do. Understanding roles in the provincial government. Canada is divided into provinces and territories, and each one has its own government to make decisions that affect people living there. But who is in charge at the provincial level? In this video, we'll break down the major roles in a provincial government, including the Premier, the Cabinet, and the members of the Legislative Assembly, also known as MLAs.
So from what I understand, this mirrors the federal. The premier is like the prime minister. The cabinet, again called the cabinet, is selected by him. And the members of the legislative assembly are the legislature, essentially. Those that are elected. Here.
In some provinces, they are called MPPS or MNAS, but they all
I've never heard them called that, but
have
okay.
the same role. By the end of this video, you will understand how the provincial government works and what these leaders do to govern their province. Brought to you by Super Simple Sheets. From coast to coast, worksheets that work. Discover the full range of what we offer at
Ads in my
supersimplesheets.com.
5-minute video.
The Premier, the
All right, here we
leader
go.
of the province. The Premier is the head of the provincial government. This role is similar to the Prime Minister, but instead of leading the whole country, the Premier is responsible for their province. The Premier is the leader of the political party that wins the most seats in the provincial election. A seat represents a riding, which is a specific.
A lot of them in there in BC. Vancouver metropolitan area down there. Gosh, look how close they get. The densely populated zones. Like they all have about the same number of people, right? That's what they're trying to do. Liberal, New Democratic, Green. Is there any Green Party? One. Victoria Metro. No, that's dark green. Oh, it's just showing how popular they are.
Area in the province. Just like in the federal government.
Oh, same thing here in Ontario. Look at the density in Toronto. Horseshoe. I wonder 2025. The last year? The Liberals won, right? I guess there's a lot of red. there. Okay, I was
Just
gonna
like
keep
in the
watching.
federal government, the leader of the party with the most elected representatives
Ontario is conservative. Look at that. All the zones outside the city.
becomes the premier.
Okay.
The premier's job is to lead the province, make important decisions about policies and laws, and represent the province in national discussions with the prime minister and other premiers. The premier also selects a group of ministers to help run different areas of government. This group is called the cabinet. The cabinet, helping the premier run the province. The cabinet is
So there is a federal cabinet and there is also provincial cabinets.
made up of MLAs, MPPs, or MNAs, chosen by the premier
I don't remember any of those.
to oversee different parts of the government. Each cabinet minister is responsible for a specific area, called a ministry. Some examples include the Minister of Education, who is responsible for schools, the Minister of
So then is there a federal Ministry of Education or is that just provincial?
Health, who oversees hospitals and healthcare, and the Minister of Transportation, who helps manage roads and public transit. These ministers help the premier make important decisions and ensure that the government runs smoothly. They meet regularly to discuss issues and create policies that affect the province. Members of the Legislative Assembly representing the people. The members of the Legislative Assembly, or MLAs, are elected by the people in their ridings. In some provinces, they are called MPPS or MNAS, but their job is the same. They represent their communities in the provincial government, listen to the concerns of the people, and vote on new laws. MLAs meet in the provincial legislature, which is similar to the House of Commons at the federal level. During these meetings, they debate new laws, discuss provincial issues, and vote on important decisions. The government is made up of the MLAs.
30th Saskatchewan general election. Okay, I don't. New Democrat. Saskatchewan United, that's blue. Is that like the Conservative Party? Why? Isn't green usually the Green Party? I assume that's got to be the Liberals then. I don't know. I don't get this map.
From the party that won the most seats, but the opposition parties also have MLAs who challenge and question government decisions to make sure all perspectives are considered. How the provincial government affects people's lives. The provincial government is responsible for many services that affect people every day. Education, healthcare, transportation, and natural resources are all managed at the provincial level. This means that decisions made by the premier, the cabinet, and MLAs can directly impact schools, hospitals, roads, and even the environment. For example, if a province needs more schools, the Minister of Education will work with the Premier and the legislature to create a plan and set a budget for building them. If there is a problem with healthcare, the Minister of Health will help make changes to improve hospitals and medical services. How it all works together.
Okay,
Now
here we
that we've
go.
covered the key roles, let's review how the provincial government works. The Premier is the leader of the province and makes big decisions. The cabinet ministers help the Premier by running different government departments. The MLAs represent the people in their ridings, debate new laws, and vote on important issues.
So this is set up to work the same way as the federal system, where the premier is the head of the party that got the most votes, but is in the end ultimately responsible to not to the House of Commons. What do they call it?
On important issues. All of these roles
To the elected representatives in the province. And so you vote for both a federal individual to represent you and a provincial individual to represent you in two different legislative bodies. Okay.
Work together to make sure the province runs smoothly and meets the needs of its people. Now that you know how a provincial government works, what do you think would be the most challenging job? Thanks for watching. Simplify your teaching journey.
Okay. Just pause there a second. Bye. Okay. We're back. Perfect. Okay, so essentially the provincial system sounds like it's set up just like the federal system. Now, last time I voted was for federal. I don't something I want to know. Okay, we were here. We got to go through this. Let's see if we can ask. How do we phrase this? Provincial, federal. How do the federal and provincial elections work? Are they offset from each other, or do they occur at the same time? The same time. I remember there were multiple things you were voting for. Last time I went to the polls, and of course, wait, 0 minutes. Okay, we will wait 0 minutes and get back to that question. I've been talking to it a lot about how to set up a stream today. All right, so let's see. That's just talking about the video. Important points to keep in mind from the video. Each province has its own government to handle issues that affects daily life in the province and territory. Education, healthcare, transportation, natural resources. Isn't this all the same stuff a state does? Because they say that provinces have more autonomy than US states. Well, that's something I'll look into later. The premier is the head of the provincial government. Like the prime minister, but only for the province. They're the leader of the political party that wins the most seats in the provincial election. The premier makes the big decisions and represents the province when talking to the federal prime minister or other premiers. Okay, so just like the federal system, the premier chooses a cabinet selected from elected members. Oh, so the cabinet is selected from the other members that were elected into the government to run specific departments, education, healthcare, transportation. Those are probably the big ones if they keep mentioning them. Members of the Legislative Assembly, that's what it's called. So, House of Commons is federal. Legislative Assembly is provincial. Are elected by people in their local riding. They meet in the provincial legislature to debate laws, vote, and represent their communities. The government side is the party with the most seats. Opposition's party challenge and question decisions. Everything works together. Premier leads and decides big picture. Cabinet runs the departments. Members of the Legislative Assembly. Maybe I will end up remembering these. Debate and vote in the legislature. This directly affects you, school funding, hospital wait times, road repairs, etc. Key takeaway. Provincial government handles the services you use every day. The premier, cabinet, and members of the legislative assembly work as a team, the opposition keeping them accountable. Okay. So set up as a copy of the federal system. Let's see if 0 minutes have passed. So I can ask you my questions. All right. Where else can we go? Here we go. Chat GPT. I will use my questions here. Okay. In Canada, federal are separate systems and they do not happen at the same time. Okay, well, federal elections decide who runs the national government. Happened. I know this happens every 4 years. Yeah. Run by Elections Canada. It can happen earlier if a government fails. That's when the House of Commons loses confidence in the legislative, the executive branch. The legislative, the House of Commons, loses confidence in the executive. That is how you end up with an election that happens earlier. Provincial elections. These decide your provincial government, run by agencies like Elections BC. You vote for. Okay, all timing 4 years. Each province has its own schedule. Okay, well. For all microphones, yes. When is Alberta's provincial election? That's what I want to know. October. Fixed election. Six elections for the third Monday in October, every 4 years after the last election. Even though 2027 is their official date, can be called earlier. All right. Well, I still got a while before I have to vote in that one. Okay, let's look at the municipal system now. So this is the more local system of government. 4 minutes, perfect.
Who's in charge of
Super simple sheet. Gotten 2 videos. Conservation of energy song. Kids French. Treaties in Canada explained. Oh, is that gonna be in French? Oh. Okay. Well, I don't think I'm gonna look into that one as much as is it this one I wanna go a bit more into depth in later. All right. Municipal governments in Canada for kids. Okay,
your
let's
city?
go.
Understanding municipal government in Canada. Every city or town in Canada needs a government to help keep things running smoothly. But who makes the
Yes.
decisions about things like roads, garbage collection, and public parks? Who decides where?
So the funding is determined by the provincial system, but the allocation is the municipal system.
New schools, fire stations, and bus stops should go. In this video, we'll break down the major roles in municipal government, including the mayor, the city council, and the local services they manage. By the end, you'll understand how your city or town is run and why municipal government is important in daily life. Brought to you by Super Simple Sheets. From coast to coast, worksheets that work. Discover the full range of what we offer at supersimplesheets.com. The mayor, the leader of the city. The mayor is the head of the municipal government. People in the city or town vote for the mayor in local elections, and the person with the most votes becomes the leader. the mayor's job is to represent the community, make important decisions about local services, and work with the city council to improve the city.
Mayor. So mayor is the head of the municipal system. Who is the mayor of Grand Cache? And when is the next election? Let's see. So the date we gotta know is that one. Long way away. This one's a bit tricky because Grand Cache no longer has a mayor at all. Oh, that's pleasant. Does Grand Cache have a mayor? No. In 2018, Grand Cache was dissolved as a town and became part of the municipal district of Greenview number 16. Okay, I've seen that a lot. So on maps and stuff. So I'm guessing that's why. There is no mayor of Grand Cache anymore. The community is now represented by elected councilors. Ward 9 instead. Current local representative. 2. These two guys are. How do you get 2 elected representatives? Who is the top local leader now? The whole district is led by Reeve. Similar role, but for more rural municipalities. Okay. Current Reeve. Why is it different than your elected? He represents the entire municipal district, including Grand Cache. Grand Cache votes as part of Greenview in Alberta's municipal elections. October of last year. So 2029, that one's a long way off. Because those elections were last year. 2 local reps. Regional leader. Different business. Do we elect the Reeve? See if it gets it. Short answer, no, not directly. However, Reeve is chosen. Okay. In most rural communities, like municipal district of Greenview number 16, you vote for a councillor in your ward, Ward 9. After the election, those councillors vote among themselves. One of them becomes a Reeve. The Reeve is indirectly elected. So aren't they just setting this up the same way as the other 2 systems? You vote for your councillor. Councillor chooses a Reeve. I mean, the only thing they're missing is the cabinet. Are there exceptions? Yes, some municipalities do not allow direct elections of the Reeve, but it's less common. Okay, so the people we elect are these 2. And they elected this person to lead. Okay. Let's just have a look. See what comes up. We're looking for this guy. Ward 9, and this is going to be the other guy, right? I mean, like. Okay. And they elected this fella. Makes sense. He's the first one. Ward 2. Okay, so 1 grand cash. Life view. There's more than that because Ward 1 is also cooperatives and enterprises. So these are the municipal people in the municipal government. They got cowboy hats on and their official photos. Okay, where were we?
They also speak on behalf of the city.
So you elect municipal, you elect provincial, and you elect federal. So you're voting at 3 different times for 3 different levels of government. It's crazy because like I only ever hear about the federal level one.
At major events and meetings, including discussions with the provincial and federal governments. If a city is facing a big issue, such as a natural disaster or a major public event, the mayor plays an important role in making announcements and guiding emergency responses. The City Council, making local decisions. The City Council is a group of elected representatives called councilors. Each councilor represents a specific area of the city, called a ward. People in each ward vote for their councilor just like they vote for the mayor. The number of councilors depends on the size of the city. Large cities have more councilors, while smaller towns may only have a few. City council's main job is to debate.
And so because I live in a more rural community, we don't really have a city council. It's municipal district number 8. They call it. Municipal District of Greenview number 16. And that's the council. All right.
And vote on new rules called bylaws that affect the city. These bylaws can cover things like speed limits, zoning laws that decide where buildings can be constructed, and rules about
That's where all the like this is the level that controls like housing construction, right? So one of the issues we have in Canada is that they don't want to zone residential areas. I mean, the problem isn't as big in Alberta as it was in Ontario, but at least in Toronto, they don't like zoning new areas for residential construction, and that's what's limiting housing supply, driving up house prices. And so that's a municipal level thing.
keeping public spaces clean. If a new bylaw is proposed, councilors discuss it in a meeting, listen to community concerns, and then
That's the problem right there. The community concerns. Nobody wants new construction for some reason. And so whenever you open it up and start listening to the community, that's when you have people come in and talk and like it's going to drive down house prices if you build new houses. So people tend to be against
vote.
that own a home.
If the majority agrees, the bylaw is passed, and it becomes an official rule that people
So wait. Let me go back.
space is clean. If a new bylaw is proposed, councilors discuss it in a meeting, listen to community concerns, and then vote. If the majority agrees, the bylaw is passed.
So the municipal, you just need a majority. Like I feel like the municipal level is far less. How do I say this? Like far less liberal or conservative. Hmm.
and it becomes an official
is
rule
that the
that people
word?
in the city must follow. Local government services, what they control. Municipal governments are responsible for many services people use every day. Unlike the federal and provincial governments, which focus on national laws and healthcare, municipal governments handle things that directly affect daily life. They manage public transportation, garbage and recycling collection, road maintenance, libraries, parks, and emergency services like police, fire departments, and ambulances. They
Like, this sounds like the level that has the biggest impact on people's lives. It's also the level I hear the least about.
also decide where to build new roads, playgrounds, and community centers. Another important job of the municipal government is handling the city's budget. Cities and towns get most of their money from property taxes, which homeowners and
Okay. So property taxes is what funds this level.
businesses pay based on the value.
Doesn't that mean they're incentivized to keep like housing costs high so they can keep property taxes high?
Of their property. The mayor and city council decide how this money will be spent to improve the community. How it all works together. The municipal government is responsible for making sure cities and towns are safe, clean, and well maintained. The mayor leads the city and makes important decisions. The city council works with the mayor to debate and vote on local rules and policies. Municipal governments also manage essential public services that people rely on every day. While federal and provincial governments focus on bigger issues, municipal governments handle the decisions that directly impact daily life. Now that you know how municipal government works, what local service do you think is the most important for your community? Thanks for watching.
Okay. Let's see what it says of the important points to keep from this video. Every city, town, or municipality, which we are in, I am a municipality district, Greenview number 16. I gotta remember that one. Municipality has its own government to handle local issues that affect you immediately. Roads, garbage, parks, library, public transit, fire, zoning. That seems like the most important part. The mayor is the head or the reeve, I believe. Reeve, for where I am, is the head and is elected directly by voters in the municipality. We don't directly elect it here. We vote in our senator, and our senator votes for the reeve. Most votes win. The mayor represents the community and makes key decisions, work with council, speaks for city, including to provincial/federal government, and leads in emergencies. Okay. City council or councilors are elected representatives, one or more per ward. I think we have 2 in our ward. Neighborhood, district. They debate and vote on bylaws, local rules such as speed limits, zoning laws, or keeping public spaces clean. A majority vote is needed to pass them. And this is the thing where they open it up for people to come in and talk. And that is for passing bylaws. Funding comes mainly from property taxes paid by homeowners/business based on property values. Based on property value. The mayor and council decide how to spend that money on local improvements. Municipal government is the closest level while the federal and provincial handle big picture laws and programs. Municipalities manage the services you see and use daily: garbage pickup, road repairs, playgrounds, community centers. Okay, so the community center, a gym and a pool I go to, is managed by the municipal government. And when they want funding, because they're trying to do an expansion on it, they get funding from the municipal government. All right. Well, that's a pretty brief overview of the Canadian political system. It seems to mirror itself, federal system with the premier, cabinet, House of Commons, the provincial system, the premier, cabinet, the provincial cabinet, and the members of the legislative assembly. And then you have your mayor, there's no cabinet, and you just have your councilors. Okay. So how do I phrase this? In Alberta, when do we elect our municipal, provincial, and federal representative? Let's see, like the municipal might be at different times. For next election, that's old, obviously. That's what, like 5 months ago? Happens every 4 years. Third Monday in October. Okay. Now, is everyone in Alberta doing that, or is that just provincial? Alberta government. Now that one's over a year away. Can be earlier. The whole can be earlier. They called the federal run earlier last time. This decides your member of parliament. October 20th. So that was the other thing I was voting for when I went in. Because last time I voted, I remember there were other measures you were voting for. I had no idea what they were. I was primarily there to vote for my member of parliament. And I assume I just picked the guy that aligned with the party I was voting for my municipal. Okay. They line up. They're not coordinated, but sometimes overlap by coincidence. Same month. Busy year with 2 elections close together. Okay, so I just gotta keep track of when these are. Counselors. Email them specifically. What was the other thing I wanted to ask? Reading through here. Oh, I've been hearing about MPs moving from one party to the other. Can you explain how that works? Because I've heard a couple times, like, the liberals are gaining members, essentially crossing the floor. Yeah, okay, well, let's just read what it has to say. What you're hearing about is commonly called crossing the floor. It's a normal, though sometimes controversial. Like, of course, it's controversial. You vote for one party, and then they become a member of another party. Like, that does not seem democratic. Part of Canada politics. What does it mean? When an MP is elected, they usually belong to a political party. But later, they choose to join their party, join a different party, or sit as an independent. So when you elect your MP, you're very much voting for them and not their party. Because this is something that always gets lost in Canadian elections. You look at, you watch like the leaders of the party talk and you vote for which leader you want to represent you. But when you're voting, you vote for the name and then they tell you the party that they're a part of. And so if you just look at the leaders and you just vote for the person that represents it, that person could then change and become a part of a different party. But then does that represent you? Like you voted for a leader, but that's not how the system works. So you literally have to look into the NP. I don't know. I don't like that. Because your MPs don't go up there and talk that often. Is it allowed? Yeah, it's completely legal. The Canadian system, in the Canadian system, you technically vote for a person, not just the party. Once elected, that MP is free to change. So once they have your vote, they can do whatever they want. I don't like that. There's no law forcing them to stay with the party they were elected under. Why do they switch parties? A lot of reasons. Disagreement with the leader, being kicked out, believing they align better with another party. Political strategy. Do voters get a say when this happens? Ultimately, no. Immediate vote. No immediate vote happens. The MPs keep their seat until the next election. So you can vote them out the next election. Voters can then decide whether to re-elect them or not. Some people argue there should be a by-election. That's not required in Canada. Like, I feel if you're an MP and you are switching what party you align with, that should trigger an election for your seat. Okay. Real example, well-known case, switch from Conservative Party to Liberals in 2005. Like, I've heard of several switching recently. Let's see if we can get an answer on that. I've heard of several MPs switching from Conservative to Liberal recently. Who are they and why did they switch? Several MPs switching from Conservative to Liberal recently. Who are they and why did they switch? Perfect. I don't have to spell. That's great. Now let's see, because I haven't seen any news newer than 2025. Yes, there have been a few recent real cases. Conservative MPs switching to the Liberals, especially since the 2025 federal election. It's not a huge number. I mean, like, the liberals are really close to a majority. And so not a huge number has a huge effect, but enough to get attention because the government is in a minority situation. Yes. And they're close to getting a majority situation. Here's the main one: recent conservatives, liberal floor crossing, Chris d'Entremont, one of the first recent. Why he switched. Disagreements with conservative leadership. Felt the liberal government better aligned with his more centralist views. Wanted to support the federal budget and stability. I mean, like, budget and stability. Michael Ma came second. Why he switched. Steady practice approach, aligned more with Prime Minister Mark Carney's leadership. Matt Jennerworks. No idea how to say that. A notable Albertan MP. Switching sides. Influenced by Carney's international economic stance, Davos speech. Wanted to work directly with the government on policy. Like, the fact is that these people do need a party. And I don't know how I feel about this whole crossing over thing, because you can guarantee that most of the people that voted for Matt were voting because he attached himself at the time to conservatives. And he had conservative next to his name on the ballot. I don't know. I think there should be some kind of by-election if you want to switch. Like, I'm not saying like maybe it does go the other way, because I mean Carney's made a lot of ground in his opinion polls, right? Let me look that up too. What's going on overall? These switches are happening because the Liberals under Mark Carney's have a minority government. How many more seats do they need? $80 in 25 years, so it's definitely not particularly common. Three messages remain. How many more seats do the Liberals need to get a majority government? Government to form a majority government in Canada, a party needs more than half of the seats in the House of Commons. 338 seats total, so they need 170. How many do they got? The Liberals ended up with fewer. Okay, yeah. They don't need a full majority to govern, but they do need support from the MPs to pass laws, so switches sides, gets them closer. Liberals were under that. How didn't many seats do the Liberals hold? How many seats do the Liberals hold? Maybe I just phrased it wrong. Maybe that's a better question for Google. 116. Just 3 seats side of the 172 required for majority. So they need 3. Liberals, conservatives, Bloc, New Democratic, Green Party with their 1 seat. All right. What was the other thing? All right, let's see here. Members of the Legislative Assembly. All right. What's the best way for a Canadian citizen to affect their political system? Like, I assume this is just going to be vote in the 3 elections. But let's see what it gives us. There than just one best way. It depends on how involved you want to be. Okay. Canada, real influence usually comes from consistent local actions, not just one big movement. Here are the ways. Vote, obviously. Baseline, but it's important. The minimum level of influence, you want to vote federal, your provincial, municipal elections. I think federal and municipal are done at the same time. And designed by a very slim margin, especially local. Contact your representatives. Oh, I've gotten all their emails now. So, this is one of the most effective things most people never do. Most effective things most people never do. Contact your representative. I mean, you saw me find my representatives in like, what, 2 minutes? Okay, this is one of the most effective things to do. Officers track how many people contact them about an issue. Offices track how many people contact them about an issue. Ooh. Like, I could probably just send an email to all of them. Even 10 to 20 messages on the same topic can get attention. Best approach, be specific and polite. Focus on one issue. Oh, it's gonna write like an essay. Here's all the issues. Ask for a clear action or position. Oh, well, I might have AI help me draft that up for any issues. We're gonna go here. We're gonna save this so that when we come across issues, I can contact the people. Where was I? Ask for clear action or position. Okay. Get involved in a political party. Oh, this is where it starts to multiply. You can vote in leadership races. What? What does it mean by get involved in a political party? Help choose local candidates, influence party policies, especially at the riding. This year is much louder than in the general election. Well, maybe I'll have to look at the political parties. Can you get involved in all the political parties? Organize or join a group. Community organization. So is this like the group that wants Alberta to separate? That it's that level? Campaign, volunteer, or run. This is where influence becomes direct. Volunteer for a campaign, help with outreach or messaging, or even I have to look far more into the parties. Smaller communities like yours A small number of people can shape outcomes a lot. Ooh. Share public opinion, talk to people, make videos. Politicians ultimately follow what they think voters care about. Okay, okay. What actually works best if you want real influence, combine these, vote, contact reps. I got all their emails. Be involved locally. That combo puts you ahead of 50% plus of people in terms of local impact. Well as people think, only posting online, low direct impact, only voting every few years, complaining without organizing. None of these things work. Bottom line, voting matters, but it's just the start. Direct contact and local involvement are where influence really happens. The system is more responsive than it looks, especially at the local and party level. Okay. So the municipal level. Huh. So then I assume, oh no, this is a site specifically set up for the District of Greenview. Okay. Uh, how does one join a political party so that they can vote in leadership races? Joining a political party in Canada. Can I join all three? Ask that next. When I say three, I'm referring to like the conservatives. Oh, we're out of messages. Conservatives, liberals, and NDP, which are the three big ones. There's the Quebec Party, the Bloc, and the Green Party, but then they only got like one seat. Joining a political party in Canada is actually pretty simple, and it's one of the most direct ways to influence who leads the country or province. Here's how it works: choose a party, choose all the parties. Federal level, major parties include Liberals, Conservatives, New Democratic. There are also provincial versions of parties in Alberta, which you can join separately. Ooh. Sign up for membership usually. Go to the party's official website, fill out a membership form, pay a small fee. $10 a year, what is that? Membership is individual. You can't be a member of multiple federal parties at once. Ugh. Okay. We gotta pick one. The liberals and conservatives are the big parties. I mean, I'm not gonna do this now because the new Democratic Party, they have a new candidate. And I actually like what he's been saying recently. I'll have to look into that. Wait for eligibility. To vote in a leadership race, you must be a registered member before a cutoff date. Okay, well, that's just registering. Be a Canadian citizen. Check. Be at least 14 years old. Yes, you can join parties. Check. If you join after the cutoff, you can't vote in that specific race. Okay. Voting when a leadership race happens. The party sends you a ballot. Rank candidates. The winner becomes party leader. So I can do this at the federal and provincial level. Very few people actually do this. So literally just spending a little bit of time So I'm going to do this at some point. But after I probably do a more deep dive into the actual parties. Leadership races are often decided by tens of thousands of people. That's tiny compared to millions of voters in a general election. Meaning, your influence as a party member is way bigger than a regular voter. Okay, okay. Alberta specific notes. You can also join provincial parties like United Conservative Party, Alberta New Democratic Party. Liberals not even there. Yeah, Alberta definitely leans conservative. Same idea, pay membership, vote in leadership races, influence. So you can do this at the federal and provincial level. Per level. Okay. Memberships usually expire yearly, so you must renew to stay eligible. So they basically just have hoops you got to jump through in order to be able to participate. Pick a party, buy a membership, join before the cutoff, vote in leadership races. We ran out of our things to ask it anyway. Oh well. Save this. That'll show up there. All right. Okay, well, that about sums up what I wanted to look into for the Canadian political system for today. There were the videos that go more in depth, but I think I'll probably look at those off stream. That's pretty dry stuff. um, Other than that, I did want to see if I could set this up. Let's see how the actual stream went. It's still running Twitch. Oh, okay, we got message here. Auto mod. Held a message for reason. Smart detection expired and not posted to chat. Okay, auto mod, whatever that is. Cheap views, stream. Oh, it's one of those things trying to sell you stuff. That's working fine. Kick stream is still up. 2 viewers. Hey, viewers. Everything is going well there. YouTube. 0 views. The stream is up and in excellent quality. Look at that. So the multi-stream aspect is working fine. If I do a test, does that show up here? Okay, well, it looks like all the systems are working. I don't like how it's deleting messages here. Custom browser dock. Let me get rid of the delete line. And hopefully that'll fix that. All right. Well, I'm gonna try and play a video game for a little bit before I jump off. Honestly, this mic sucks. Maybe I'll have to figure something out to do that. I just have one of the simple Stand mics is set right where your keyboard is supposed to be. Would affect gameplay. How long have I been streaming? Where can I see timestamp? Okay, I can see them here. An hour and 42 minutes. Hit rate 6K.